darkest boots in your Prada bag. Suburban summer 17 was a roller coaster ride. A manic pixie dream girl right beside me, and she said she liked me, but I bet it was a right thing lining up at the wrong time. And I think maybe if I'd held on tight, she'd still be sitting by my side.
I DNF'd the book, so let me just even preface that right now. I DNF'd the book because there's just too much spice. Like, there was just too much spice. Like, I gave myself a rule that I was like, no guys, 3 strikes and I'm out. But because the family drama was a bit too interesting for me, and the past timeline was like, I want to see where this goes, I went to like 100 and something pages in. I was like 100 and something, I think 115, 100 and something. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. Like, I even endured nonsense. I'm skipping this, I'm skipping that. How many times do I have to skip? So yeah, I just DNF'd that book. But I can at least tell you a little bit about it because I did read over 100 pages. And it's a very interesting book. So basically, Malibu Rising is about, it's like a nice cute like sibling. Sorry, I'm gonna keep playing with my hair throughout this because I'm looking at it like anyways, so it's a cute little story actually about like this family, the Reaver family, and there's 4 siblings, right? So there's Nina, there's Jay, there's Hud, and then there is your Gandhi. What is that other sister's name? Kit. Gandhi, what's her name? You know what? If I find a name, I'll pop it up on the screen. But there's the 4th sibling, which is, so it's 2 girls. The oldest and the youngest are girls, and then there's 2 in the middle who are boys, right? Who are just a few months apart from one another. And this story, it goes through a dual timeline narrative structure where one chapter is in the present and then another chapter is in the past. And this is all taking place, well, the present timeline is taking place in the 1980s, and then the past timeline is taking place from the 1950s. So very interesting already there, because we're not even in the 2000s, and I was born in 2003, so it's like very interesting to read about the world before I even was. Very, very fascinating. And my parents were like, 1950s, my parents were not alive. So it's so interesting to see like what was going on back in those days, at least in this fictional world. Anyways, yeah. And so in the present timeline, we are going through the lives of the 4 siblings. And in the past timeline, we're going through basically how these siblings' parents fell in love with each other, how they met, how they started dating, how they eventually got married, how the first child was born, all of that, the family dynamics and situations surrounding their lives basically. And it's a pretty interesting book because there's so much like drama. So already when we start this book off in chapter 1, I forgot to say, this book is also the present timeline, the 1980s timeline, is all taking place within 24 hours. Yeah, so each chapter is actually like a time stamp, literally, where it's like, okay, it started at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then I think the book ends at 7 a.m. the next day. And so much happens between 7 a.m. When the book starts and 7 a.m. when the book ends. So much happens in between that. I obviously don't know the latter half of what happens, but the first 100 and something pages I know more or less like what's going on because I did read it. And it was very, very fascinating, like very, very interesting to read about Nina, who is the main character of Malibu Rising in the 1980s timeline. And she's the oldest sibling out of the 4. She's the most responsible, and her husband is cheating on her. And the whole world knows about it. So yeah, not nice. And she grew up in a home that was like right next to the beach, So she was very blessed, and she grew up, basically in the water a lot of the time. So when she was young, I think, what was it? Was she like 11 years old? It was the first time when she surfed. And then her 2 brothers were 9. And then, what is this other girl's name? I think it starts with a K. I think she was 6. Yeah. So it's 11, 9, and 6. So we can see the splits here in terms of ages. and that's kind of like, there's a little chapter about like how they started surfing, and all 4 siblings can surf. That's like something that they bond over, which is very beautiful. But there's so much drama going on throughout this book in relation to like what's going on in these different siblings' lives, and then also even the past timeline like was a lot. Like initially you can see like the mother, okay, let's go into this. So the mother, June, basically, and her first off love interest turned boyfriend turned fiance turned husband, Mick River, right? So these two meet at the beach, you know, when she's wearing some cute little bikini. I think she was wearing a cute bikini that day. I know there was a whole little situation about her and some gingham, blue and white gingham bikini that was like expensive or whatever, but she's like, I just need to have this for myself. Yeah, I remember something along those lines. So I don't remember if she met him that day or on a different day, but anyways, and so she met him. And a little bit of backstory behind Mick and also June. June, basically her parents run a a little small family owned restaurant called, I forgot what it was called, some fish something. And then Mick River, he also doesn't really have much money, like, because already with June she doesn't really have much money. It's a small family business and stuff, and the parents want her to take it over once they are old, and she's like, oh hell no, I was born for bigger things than to run a restaurant, a family restaurant. No. I was destined for greater, to be a star, you know, to that's kind of like where she at. Not in the arrogant way, but more like in a just like she wants more out of life, you know. And then Mick also, he's like, he also wants more out of life. He grew up in a family where the father was a deadbeat father. He was abusive. The mom, and that, it was actually such a disgusting family environment that he grew up in, because his mom and his dad abused one another. The dad was unfaithful, cheated on his wife like no one's business. He was an alcoholic. These two would literally have fist fights with each other, and then minutes later they'd be kissing, kiki and laughing like nothing happened. Because Mick was an unplanned child, they were not good parents to him, like at all. Actually, they actually neglected him most of the time, to the point where when he was younger he figured he kind of needed to fend for himself, where when it comes to food, when it comes to stuff, he just knew he had to fend for himself, because his parents were not going to do that for him, which is just so, yeah, very, very sad. So I think it might help a little bit in his psychology as to why he ended up the way he was, because yikes, he turns out to be an unfaithful douchebag. And he basically, his whole mentality, I feel like to some degree, like his parents ruined him in this area. Man should have really gone to therapy, but like this was the 50s and 60s, so I don't really know how therapy was working, if it was even like really, I don't think it was really popular back then. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, you can see that like he basically looked for a woman who he thought was better than him, so that she could save him. He wanted like the woman he was with to be better than his mom. He wanted her to be an amazing cook, an amazing woman, someone who is going to take care of the kids, while he, forgot to tell you about his dream, goes off and sings to the whole world, basically sings to the whole world, tours the whole world, blesses the world with his music. He wants to be a famous like singer, a famous artist, and he does go on to be just that. But unfortunately, he's not cut out for fame in terms of like mentally, he's not ready for fame at all. Physically, in the sense of like his voice, he was ready, but psychologically he was not ready for it at all, because literally when he gets famous, that's when his wife, because they get married, obviously him and June get married, and they have their first child before they get married. But anyways, because they had to speed the wedding around, because they're like, what do you mean you like impregnated my daughter before she was married? But okay, fine, whatever. But from the different stories and stuff that you can see, you can already start to see Mick kind of manipulates words and statements and things just to get his own way. So an example of this is like before, after he proposes to June, in the past timeline, the 1950s timeline, and he basically talks to the father, because the father's like, oh, I see you didn't even ask for my blessing, you know, but I'll hear you out, okay. And then he is a very smooth talker as well. He's a smooth talker. He's able to convince the dad that he's the right choice for his daughter, and he lies to the father and says, yeah, no, we're gonna take care of your like family business once the wife and the husband are no longer able to. He lies. He tells the father this, but then when June pulls him to the side and says, you told him that we're gonna take over the restaurant, he's like, no, I was just saying that like just to appease him and stuff. Nah, don't worry, we're not gonna deal with all that. And I'm just like, red flag again, because this is the second time he lied to her. The first time he lied to her was when he told her that she was his first sexual experience, which was false. Which was false. And I was like, this man is a liar, and we still want to proceed. And the mom didn't like him. Like, the mom did not like him at all. The mom saw him, she was like, this man's very attractive, he sings well. But the mom was like, no, men like him, they're not faithful. Men like him, we don't get married to men like him. And the daughter's like, why don't you want anything good for me? Auntie. What the mom said, unfortunately, proved to be right. I don't like the mom saying basically that just because he's an attractive man, that therefore he doesn't deserve to be married to, because attractive men are douchebags. I don't agree with that. But based on the way he carries himself, based on the way he talks, based on the way that he manipulates people to get his way, the mom was correct. The mom was correct in all the ways in terms of his character and all that kind of stuff, even though she didn't really know him like that at the time. But I guess maybe she sensed something, because yeah, he was a douchebag. He cheated on her multiple times. Oh my word, like it was, yeah. So I was actually just intrigued in the whole family drama, because it was very interesting. I wanted to understand, how did she get married to this man? Why did she get married to this man? Did he end up cheating? Because he did multiple times. Oh my gosh. And his excuses, he's like, no, you don't understand. The first few times I rejected the woman. I rejected them. They were throwing themselves at me. And I was just like, sir. He's like, no, you don't understand. I rejected them initially. And then it got to a point where like it just got longer. Like, and then they would kiss me, and then I'd push them on like, no, I have a wife and children. Hey guys, I was like, what is this behavior? And then after a while, he's like, you know what? I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting these women. They can have me. And I'm just like, you are not cut out for this. You're not cut out to be a husband. You're not cut out to be a dad. And you're using other people as an excuse for your lack of self-control. Like, what is going on? That was such a mess. So his like psychological reasoning was pretty interesting to me, because I was just like, wow. So this is how some people are at. Like, this is exactly how some people are. Like, you guys just use every excuse to run away from the fact that you have self-control issues and you need to deal with that. That's the root problem. That other people can't save you from your lack of self-control. That it's a you thing. You have to deal with that, not other people. So it was just, yeah. And then also June's reasoning for still staying with him was so sad. Oh, shame. That was really sad, because obviously she doesn't have a job, right? He is the family breadwinner. He's the one who is, blessing them financially. And without him in her life, obviously now she has to start worrying about how are bills gonna get paid, how are we gonna get food, all these types of stuff. And it gets to the point where they do get divorced, and she has to go work for her parents' restaurant just so that like there can be some food and stuff on the table. So the siblings grew up with money and also with poverty, or some aspects of that. So they grew up with like both realities, and it's pretty interesting. Yeah. So, and then obviously in the present timeline, there's also drama going on there, because the brother had basically kind of slept with his brother's girlfriend at the time, but then they broke up, and now she's his girlfriend, but they're keeping it a secret. They've been keeping it a secret for like 6 months, over 6 months. And he's like, it's time for us to tell Jay that like we're together and like you're my one and I'm your one, and this is such a mess. Like, why would you sleep with your brother's girlfriend, bro? Like, what were you thinking? Like, that was concerning. And the only person I really like in this book so far, like properly, fully, is Nina. But again, I haven't gotten so far into it. Nina is she's responsible. She had to mature quite early on in her years, which is evident when you read the book. Like, she had to age pretty quickly. Yeah, and then everybody else kind of behaves like second, third, and fourth siblings would, you know. they behave like children, and it's very fascinating. So the book was quite interesting, but yeah, for content I just couldn't continue. But it was fascinating though. So yeah, I had to DNF this book. But I mean, if any of the family drama and the family relationships, the siblings relationships, and then the husband and wife turned divorced, turned kind of back together, turned not together again situation is intriguing to you, give it a read if the content is not an issue. But from some of the other content that I was watching, other people who I was watching, they were not really like the biggest fan of it. They liked her other works more. They liked The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six more than they liked Malibu Rising. However, when I was watching one of the videos, I'll put up what video I was watching, they were talking about how one thing they love about Taylor Jenkins Read is that she literally, whatever cast of characters she puts out, they're connected in other books. Because in the first chapter of Malibu Rising, they were talking about Carrie Soto, and I was like, wait, that's a book? Carrie Soto is Back is a book. And I was like, oh, so this is someone. And apparently Evelyn Hugo is also mentioned in Malibu Rising. I wouldn't know. And then apparently Mick Reaver is one of the husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I was like, wait, okay, that's interesting. So I like how she has created like a world, basically. She created a whole other world with these different celebrities, different, the sports of famous people, these different normal people, different so many things. And they kind of all connected in some way across the different books. So I find that to be quite intriguing, and I like that a lot actually. But yeah, so I guess this is like kind of my review of the first 115, I think it's 115, 110, around there, pages in of it. So I was enjoying it. It was pretty interesting. It's not like the best book I've ever read. It was going to probably be like a 3.5 because I hear things kind of are like all over the show afterwards. And there's a lot of other things that was going on in this book that was actually pretty interesting, and I guess could open up different points of discussion. Like, oh my goodness, like before I actually end this, another thing that I wanted to talk about was how people think that they kind of just, you know, can touch people's bodies whenever they want to. Because there was like this ad that Nina like was a part of, right, where I think it was a bikini ad or something. No, it was a top ad, like for like some cotton top or whatever. But the thing is, she was like posing very seductively in the picture, but it was like obviously for sales and all that jazz. And then they added a tagline, right, where it's like, it's so butter smooth, like you should give it a touch or something. There was some phraseology around that. And men, especially men, I don't like, whoever wrote that tagline is evil. Like, you disgust me. Men literally with wives and kids go up and touch her, body, like, oh my gosh. And they think they can just touch it. They're like, yeah, I wanted to see, wanted to see if it was really soft at the shadows. And I was just like, wait, what kind of sexual violations is this right now? This is violation upon violation. Like, what? So whoever wrote that ad, I know it's not real, but whoever wrote that ad, you're evil. You're actually an evil human being. You. That's disgusting. And you're literally the reason why she's getting sexually harassed. Like, that's you. So that was highly concerning to me. So anyways, I will look for the content warnings. I'll probably put it back in the beginning, but I'll also put it here again, just so you understand. First off, I think if you're Christian and you have similar convictions to me around like spice and like profanity and certain themes, don't read this book. Like, I didn't finish it for a reason. But if that is not of concern to you, here are some content warnings just in case there are certain themes that might be triggering for you. Yeah. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. I really wanted to do a reading vlog of my first Taylor Jenkins Read book, but unfortunately that didn't end up happening. However, if any of you guys have ever read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or Daisy Jones and the Six, please let me know if the spice is wild, or if there's any spice at all. If there isn't, that would be great, because I would then say that's my first official fully read Taylor Jenkins Read book. However, if it does have that, unfortunately I'm just not gonna read it. It's gonna be like an Emily Henry situation. It was nice, but no, not again, not again. So just let me know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to all the booktube things, and I'll see you in another one. Bye guys.